our liability just with our lockup alone is great. Costs us a lot of money to station somebody in the lockup area anytime we have somebody in custody, and then it costs us a lot of money to transport a custody down to Middleton every single night. If we have somebody that is not going to be released, so liability alone for that is unbelievable. With all the evidence rooms and everything in the news lately, you know, our evidence room, although I feel that we do a good job with what we have, it doesn't pass the standards for what an evidence room should pass.
Accreditation?
Yeah. There's no way our facility could ever be accredited. So.
When was the last time it was?
No. And it's our hope that we're going to start the accreditation process at some point. It's our hope to, when we open a new facility, to seamlessly, you know, have the accreditation process completed, you know, with the new facility. That would be our long-range goal.
Kind of a minimum standard?
Yeah.
That we would be shooting for?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's great facilities in Middleton for dispatch and for the prison and for their holding and for the efforts that the county is going through, but Middleton isn't on a speed dial call to come up here at Women and pick up prisoners at a moment's notice.
No, it's our responsibility to transport them.
Right. So, and even in my talking to the sheriff and the tour down there and asking him the question that what would be the minimum required facilities for any town or community in Essex County, is that they do need the minimum number of holding cells because they're not on automatic and they're not running a bus shuttle system to bring prisoners down there, book them and hold them, and then once they're there to bring them back, trying ways to alleviate transportation because it's, again, a liability and a risk effort. So even just having holding facilities in our town isn't a wasted effort or duplication.
I mean, even on a busy Friday night, you could have somebody in custody and have an emergency call and you have to go out. I mean, we don't.
There is a standard for local lockups.
Oh, absolutely.
I would assume that we would be working towards.
The middle, we keep in mind is the Middleton holding facility, that's more of a long-term holding as well. So that would be somebody that can't make bail, you know, that's somebody that's already held by judge's orders for an extended period of time. Every police facility that's going to be taking people into custody has to be able to facilitate temporary, short-term holding capabilities and safe capabilities to hold somebody on a temporary basis, which usually equates to somewhere between 4 hours or less, where somebody can, you know, make arrangements to get bailed out. And now the person's loved one, a family, or friends, or whatever, come to the local police department to assist in that release. Having that person being held a half hour, if not more away in a different facility that's more for a long term is just not conducive to a accommodating police department.
These are the standards from the Mass Department of Public Health for maintenance and construction of lockup facilities.
Okay.
And there's a lot of them. So.
There's a building code and the public health
You want copies of that?
actually
Yeah,
has.
I copies of that, yeah.
I have that digitally.
So if you arrest somebody at 7 o'clock at night, will you hold them until 8 o'clock the next morning until they go to court?
Usually not, it
Set one
depends on
o'clock.
the situation.
Yes.
If we had the proper holding facility, we'd be more inclined to accommodate that if we can. If we have the personnel there and we have the proper monitoring infrastructure in place, more oftentimes, yes. If it's going to be a long weekend, a holiday weekend, or there are needs that personal holding have that we can't provide, that Middleton can, then we, when we have a facility that can accommodate temporarily holding somebody, we'd be less inclined to have to keep sending them to Middleton.
And
So
then-
that's your question.
Yeah, yeah.
And in that lockup facility, we have to differentiate between male, female, juvenile.
Juvenile, yeah, it had to be site sound segregation and all, there's a lot of different.
Right.
John's on the way.
Okay.
All right. Just so you know.
We'll get to the schedules like you didn't show up. Right, and so in the program, in terms of deciding how big a lobby is or how big a break room might be, we have, in the design process and how it all fits in will move up and down in terms of square footage.
Right.
And we could decide that maybe the square footage is because of cost, that we need to make a little sacrifice. But when it comes to the size, the minimum size of a male, a female, and a juvenile holding cell in the sequence of order that's been dictated for the safety of that person that's been taken into custody, we don't have the design leeway to slice and dice and economize. We have to meet minimum standards, and the whole goal is to make it as efficient and as safe as possible. I mean, that's the effort that we're doing here, just to limit and avoid liability and functionality. So this isn't, there isn't as much leeway as some of the public might have thought to economize and shrink this down to sort of the minimum. We're working with minimums and we're trying to add to it, is the way I see it. And one more question, Chief, is what about morale and employees? What's been the trend over the last couple of years in terms of the, your workforce?
Well, obviously, working in substandard conditions, it wears on people after a while.
Yep.
The morale, we have a great group, and they maintain a high morale no matter what the conditions, but at some point, it gets to you. And, we've lost people who have gone to quote-unquote real police departments, which is nothing to do with our policies and our standards and how we do things. It's strictly facilities related. And those things, that's life. I mean, these guys, they've been very patient. They've worked under difficult conditions, and they're ecstatic right now that we're at this stage. So,
Training and rookies and more junior personnel are investments in money spent.
oh, absolutely.
By the town. If we didn't have to train as many rookies, then your focus could go elsewhere, and other improvements and other services could be even more efficient to the town.
Right. In a small department, you always run the risk of losing people to larger departments, and that's whether you have the best facilities in the world or the worst. But in a department like Newbury, we invest so much into training and into grooming these officers to be the best officers for this town.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of, field training, and it takes a lot of supervision, and to groom these kids and pay for their training, pay for their equipment, and then just the manpower and the time invested in field training and grooming them into becoming excellent police officers, only to have them leave because, someplace else has better facilities, and, for the administration, that's gut-wrenching, huh? That is, that's a budget buster, so.
So, thanks for that. I guess Martha, you're here, or maybe JR, talk just what you would think a town hall would mean for renovations or upgrades or.
Well, we're on a really constrained budget, everyone realizes that, it's a little less than we wanted. To me, a town hall renovation would be absolutely getting out of our rental situation here, whatever it takes. I guess my personal vision is converting the downstairs into some functional office spaces and trying to create some storage there. Whether the storage comes in this phase or down the road in conjunction with another project, I think when we go out to bid and see what we can get for the money is really gonna dictate that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I think for the budget, the priority is absolutely the police station, and see what we can do with town hall to get out of here.
Right, the need for storage has been there as long as I've been part of this group or this effort, but it really wasn't part of the initial charge in terms of trying to solve the problem. It was brought in, and the lot more space to solve other problems. And so some other problems may be deferred, unfortunately, under the quote town hall heading as we figure this out.
Through this process, you've spoken quite a bit about synergies, and the longer we're here, it really makes me appreciate the old situation at town hall, not the deficiencies and the crampedness, but maybe somewhat the layout. Here, everyone's upstairs, downstairs, here, there, and everywhere. I think there was more of a, not a homey feeling, but a team feeling, working together. Exactly, continuity, ease for people to come in and meet with a few different people, me from a leadership point of view. Having our own building, not a shared facility with a giant parking lot down buried in the woods off the road, it's easier, like for me to say, okay, this one, and this one's there. This is the perfect time to catch some people, pick their brains, let them know about what's going on. So the longer we hear the synergies of actually teamwork and working together and flow, it becomes more and more evident to me.
So that's a big challenge before us, is that we have, this has evolved slowly over time, but in terms of Morgan Ave and the former fire company number 2's property, that lot, fire company, the town hall location, and trying to put something back together, hopefully would the thought always was, again, there was synergy and there was something great that was happening in terms of town hall to get people quickly and serve them, and we want to try to get that back, and we want to try to do it even better. The challenge with this is that we do have two separate sites, two separate buildings that we're working on, and it will be a little bit of a, more of a challenge through this construction process, not to be able just to put a rectangular fence around the site and manage it and get the best that we can for it. We're gonna have a little scattered approach, and not knowing exactly what all-encompassing is gonna happen at town hall with renovations are always tricky for figuring out the best means and expenditure of your dollars. I mean, I think when we have a brand new plan and you have expectations that it's new, and that's exactly what you're gonna get, because you put the time and effort to get exactly that. When you have a renovation and you haven't uncovered some things, and you're hoping to stretch some dollars, you're not quite sure what you're gonna buy, and if we may have to even have some alternates to buy, depending on how the budget goes, a little extra, there's a huge extra effort on us to figure that all out. But I think that's the intent, is to get back to some of those synergies of department relationships with the organization that will certainly pay dividends, which do relate to dollars, but are kind of hard for most residents to put into terms of dollars. And that's what we want to get back to. Anything to add there, Martha?
No, I agree with JR 100%. I think being over here, the fact that we're on 2 floors, so we're not even really coordinating with each other the way we did, and certainly there's more separation between us and our board and committee members and us and the public. I think it's made us all realize the benefits, even though it was kind of a funky situation, the benefits of the situation that we had before, just in terms of relating to each other as employees and relating to the public and the other people that we need to deal with.
Collaboration to get the job done.
Absolutely.
You can't replace face-to-face time with text messaging or emails. Sometimes you can, but sometimes you just can't.
And I would encourage us, I know that the budget is extremely tight, I would encourage us to at least explore in the design phase the option of putting an addition on the back, just so that we can all get on 1 floor again. It really is amazing what a difference it makes being on 2 floors, and it sounds
Right, so
silly.
the effort that will come before us and the designers will be renovations to bring the building up to a certain level, but I was thinking that the money that was marked would probably hopefully be first and foremost for some sort of strategic addition that would resolve accessibility issues, front door issues, and provide for the space for the trailers that are no longer, and then we could figure out between the two. But until we get there, it's a little tough. We're gonna have to write something, and that's the next step, is review of the manual for design and construction. So I hope everybody is reading this. If there are any questions, the RFQ. It's not an RFP, it's not a proposal we're looking for qualifications. Walk through just the titles of the qualification that we have in front of us, and then, real quickly, then we'll go over schedule, because I think if we need a schedule, we need to set an end date, we need to set some goals, and we need to stick to them, because they have ramifications. If we just take this piece by piece, week by week, we'll end up, it'll be 2022 by the time we're looking at building. Because time flies, and it's a big effort for each step of the way. So, let's go through that. So we have a draft. The draft was compiled using several other towns' current ones. I think we talked about the most current one last week, Martha. John, do you have a more current, or do you have a? No. Okay, so, we're on our third, fourth draft of this. It's, there's a proposed project schedule, which we're gonna take off the cover page. And we'll leave that to a separate schedule now that we have someone that can actually schedule and put it in a graphic format that we can all follow. We'll retitle this, we'll put everyone's name on the front cover so that it's clear, Martha. And we'll get the, we need to figure out how to edit the document. I guess I'm looking for any and all help, Martha and others, and John, how to do this as a committee.
We could put it on Dropbox and have shared.
Yeah, we could do that. Is that a Word document or a PDF?
It's a Word document.
It's Word. I had it in pages for Mac, but it's in Word, and I assume that we keep it in Word now.
Yeah. No, if it's PDF, we can convert it to.
And I'm all for the editing in Word, but I find it kind of cumbersome and a pain in the ass, truthfully. I'd rather just have someone type in and do a cross out and put my highlights in blue and yours in red, and then we discuss it. Just the easier way to type it all out. If we're making edits that we're in the editing creation phase here. It's not like we're trying to really track our edits to legally step through the process. We're trying to just create the document first.
Right, although if we have edits when we're doing it in the review thing in Word, it's easier to accept them rather than
Okay.
Accept or reject or modify.
Yeah, and if someone has a whole oversale of a section or something, I would just cut, paste that out, retype it in Word, your own, and then submit it separately so that we don't bog down with edits, since there's 38 pages here. But let's just go through quickly. The first thing is that this RFP as a whole document has what I understand to be a simplification as the advertisement that goes in the newspaper, that goes on the state's website. And this is the general notification to let everybody know that we have a project, and hopefully they're combing and reading this and somehow have a source to send them that. And then the rest of the body is this expanded in full detail. So we state the name of the project, we state the general size, the budget, the location. We have a section of notice of proposal, the town's project information, just a little bit of history of where Newbury is. Hopefully everybody that's bidding actually knows our town has been here, but sometimes it's not the case. Qualification for the owner's project manager. So we have minimum requirements, project experience requirements. We hope to put some service. What are we looking for? What are the qualifications that we're asking for? We could say that, we want to know that you've completed 5 police stations between 5,000 and 15,000 square feet. So what we're not looking for is some guy that's done 10 police stations, but they're all 50,000 square feet. Isn't exactly the, we're trying to get somebody that's done ours, and there's two ways to think about that, and being the architect that competes for projects on a qualification basis, not police stations. I'll make that clear. That's half the battle. The other half of the battle is finding somebody that we all feel that we can work with and that has a good personality and has the right personality for Newbury. We are special and we are different from everybody else. Everybody else is different from us. And it's either risk reward where we're looking for somebody and they come in and they said, I've done 10 of these, and we figure, well, how could it go wrong? They've done 10 of these. Well, they haven't done ours, and we have a process, and we have our unique situation that we need to work through, and so we need to find somebody that can work with us, all of us, the town, everybody, to get what we need. We may not need the person that's done 10 of these, just because he's done 10 of these. Does that make sense?
Yep. Again, we're looking for not necessarily an individual, could be a firm that will assign an individual to this project.
True, and that is something very important that needs to come out of this, is that we need to specifically state that
Who we
we
want.
need to see and be guaranteed that the people that we would eventually interview are the people
who will be
assigned to the project.
Absolutely.
And that needs to be,
So key, absolutely key.
Yeah.
right,
Best
legally.
contractor doesn't have the right team for us, doesn't
No,
matter if
absolutely,
the
no,
guy's
no,
not.
I think that would be the expectation.
And every contractor
We would
has
be
an
picking
A-team.
the individual within that firm
Mhm.
Yes,
who's going to work with us, okay?
or they would be presenting to us
Yeah,
the
for the-
exact team.
well, I think we can ask them to, yeah.
Exactly.
So then we go through design, pre-design phase, construction phases, and we're really spelling out the tasks that we're looking for them to provide, what we were looking for during the construction phase, closeout services, what they're supposed to be doing during all phases of services. On page 8, and it says a submission package. So what do we want? And what the importance here is that we're clear, and what we don't want is 5 proposals, and some guy gives us 3 pages, and some guy gives us 100 pages, and we're trying to compare apples to apples, and it may be the guy with 3 pages is the better option, but it's just so hard to compare. And here, a little less or more organized is better, because we're, we don't want someone's whole history. If I was interviewing John, I wouldn't care where he was born and, how many kids he had, but it would be a nice conversation later. What I really wanna know is, and that's what we gotta put here, and then we wanna be able to, because we're gonna take these home, we're gonna get a stack of information, and it's gonna be a lot of work for everybody to read through all of them once, understand sort of what we're looking for, make an assessment, and then make an assessment against all that are received. And, I don't know, hopefully we get 10 of these and we have our pick, and hopefully it's not 3, but it's more, but that's a lot of work. So, careful what we ask for, and we need to go through the submission package to make sure I've been through this, and I've gotten state forms, and I've even tried to be, as an architect, creative, and kind of reinvent the wheel. It's not what we want. We want it just real organized, so that's the invention. The biggest part, I think, for us is now number 6, which is the evaluation criteria, which spells out exactly how we are going to rank. This is a public effort. If this was private, we talk, we could have 5 people come up, we could have 1 person shine, but for other reasons, we could pick whoever we wanted. Here we have to have an organized process and evaluation for selecting the people. It should be, and the thought would be, that if we all agree on what we think is a good quality and what we think is an unacceptable quality, then we should all be rating the same, and it would be fairly obvious who gets the most points and not. And in order to do that, we'll have to have some discussion, and we'll have to ask for some, I guess, some guidance, just to be crystal clear, as when these qualification packages are submitted, how they get distributed, how you read them, how we have discussions on them, and how we go through this ranking process. process, so it's all above board and it's all properly done. We will, or could have, we had complainers in town, well, we could have complainers from people that felt like we didn't run our process accordingly. So we need to understand what we're asking for, we need to understand exactly how we're gonna evaluate it, and we need to do that. It seems kinda simple, but we gotta stick to it. So this is dragged out. The first time I put this together, I was almost nauseous by the time I was done, thinking like, oh my God. But, there's a section in here for team members, firm stability, what we wanna see at an interview, we want their project approach, we want some references. And then we come to number 7, which is the selection process and timeline. And it seems a little redundant, but maybe it has to be in here. Maybe a graphic schedule could replace some of this, but again, it tells somebody in written words exactly what the process and what we're expecting and what our timeline is. Other information talks about non-collusion and taxes and general liability. And then in the back, there's a bunch of forms for non-collusion, tax certificates, town Newbury contract.
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
Go back on page 14, on the process and timeline, about halfway down, it's in red, it says the town is not planning to conduct an information session. Is that normal that there isn't a information meeting with people willing to submit bids or whatever?
We haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
And we need to understand the best practices. You would, if it was, I don't know, but as we go through this process and we're ready to do it, that is something to think about. If we have a meeting and we're all here and perspective, I mean, I've been to pre-bid meetings, and it's either a group of people that everyone's just trying to size up their competition and figure out how they're gonna best beat whoever is in the room. And nobody's really asking any pertinent questions until the meeting's over, and then all of a sudden they're tackling you in the corridor trying to go, so is it real? Because they don't want to ask a good question and then have that information go to somebody else. So they don't always go according to plan. And I just wanna make sure that if we did do something, that the benefit is really there and we haven't put ourselves in some kind of, I couldn't make it, the time wasn't right, I don't know. It's more of a liability than it is a benefit.
Okay.
Usually there's a spot in here where they have a certain deadline to submit questions. And then we have so many days to turn it around, and that does the same thing. Everybody gets the same information.
Right, then the responses are shared with everybody
Yes,
else.
Right.
Right, so that would be an addendum to the.
Exactly.
And
And then might make
identify
it
who
easier.
those questions are going to,
Mhm.
so that everybody's sending them to the
Somebody-
same source who was responding. And I've seen it more in the case where it's actually the pre-construction meeting, you have these,
Mhm.
informational sessions, not so much on the selection of designer and so forth, but I know they do have them, and
Yeah, and it,
I
well, and maybe it is a great thing to have and make sure we do well, because it could also gauge the interest, and we could get a temperature read on who shows up. And we could see that there's 2 people in the room, would be like, or if there's 100 people in the room, we'll be like, ooh. We try to understand exactly what's going on, and that actually, I would hope there's a fair amount of people, but again, I'm a little unsure exactly what this is gonna, the excitement or the, type of project, but, there were 12 people in the room, and we asked, and we answered accordingly. We might decide that, some of those people may decide that this isn't exactly for them, and it would have been a great meeting to weed some people out. So, let's figure out how to do
So
that. I
you
just wanna-
you can't weigh in when all they're good. I mean, I had a meeting with some people the other day where the enthusiasm, they knew the project and so on, but the guy isn't paying his union dues, which means he's in financial trouble, but the guys are all on board.
Sure.
Doesn't mean it's the right company, but it might be the right team, but not the right company. Or
That's
is
good.
it?
A good, yeah, I guess my appetite for public engagement is waning as we go through.
She's worse than I.
Positive.
You're battle tested now.
Right, so I guess the question is, and what we need to figure out is how to best edit this. Do we divide it up into sections so that we could cut to the chase and people could become very familiar? Do we all just take a first quick read? Not really looking for spelling edits of this or thus or and or commas, but understanding the meat of the section and what it's really trying to do. And if you haven't read one of these, and my effort was that we have 4 or 5 of these. You can even just Google the current ones online and just try to hunt them down on the web. Find what we would believe to be current and just read it as like a check. It doesn't have to be a police station, it doesn't have to be a fire station, it doesn't have to be a town hall. It's great if it is, but basically we're all trying to do the same thing. There is no exact standard format, and so we're just trying to get the best in the document and concisely walk through the process. So it's either we all read it and we as a group take it section by section, or somehow we divide it in half and you guys take that half, you guys take that half, and we focus on it.
If folks are comfortable with that, that might be a good way to go as far as time.
Yeah, and our effort here is to speed things up and move things along and not, like you guys, but, sooner, time is money. Interest rates went up the other day, so, here we go. I'll take any and all comments on how to do this, or somebody thinks they're adept to one piece over another.
Well, I'm gonna offer to just do the whole thing where I'm very familiar with this.
Okay.
And look at things, and be very big supporter of various comments and questions, and much like you would be,
Okay, so,
Would you be adding to this? Because I'm reading this and there's an awful lot of edits already in here.
Yep.
A lot of information that is based on history. So when I read it, the dollar numbers are different now than they were in here. The square footage is different, timelines are different. Is the project name the same? Is the committee the same? I mean, there's a lot of extraneous information in here now, so you just wanna add another layer to this, or do you wanna start with a clean slate? I mean, if you're gonna do the work, I'd leave it to you.
Well, what I was referring to is that certainly the first 2 pages that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Somebody can help edit that, I
Yeah.
know that
yeah,
better from the
that's for
rest of
me to
it.
bring, I gotta bring that forward. I gotta take everything that I have, bring it forward, and then we can discuss and approve it.
Okay.
But I'll do the first 2 pages in terms of overall summary and starting point.
Okay.
I'll just critique the rest of it, which is the
that's fine.
invite part.
Yep, yep.
Because there's certain things that we want to add
Okay.
that I've learned over time that might not quite be in here more specifically.
Mhm.
So the first 2 pages are totally mine, plus the front of this, the top of page 3. So we'll start from notice of proposal. Everyone needs to obviously read and understand that. I think if we did want to break it apart, JR, that if John's gonna do, I'm gonna do the first couple pages of general project summary. John's gonna read the whole thing for an organization, format, and sequence for the first read. And everyone else needs to read section 5 in terms of the submission package. And then you need to read, really, yeah, section 5 is what you need to focus on for the next meeting. And that is exactly what we're asking people for and how we're gonna rate them. Just read it, does it make sense? Is this the order of the information, is there something else you can think about? And we wanna be I don't know, some police technical terms or something that makes an understanding of what people are doing, if it just, it's just gotta make sense. So, is that pretty good, Martha? And you, Martha, will send the back sections, to Ginny or to Tracy and ask, starting with, the contact.
Well, starting with, starting with 9, I think, just to make sure that
Nine,
we,
nine forward, correct. Page, glasses, page 18.
right, and we'll wanna have council review the whole thing before it goes out.
Right, but council can start to review those individual forms.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we do have a standard contract, which actually Ginny and I have kind of tweaked over time, so, I'll work with her on that.
Yeah, I mean, I cobbled this together as to say, hey, guys, this is what the task is before us, and, I think we just need to hear from Tracy and council what the latest and greatest, and if there's anything else that needs to be included in those. So we've got 16 pages of a document that we really gotta focus on. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so now that we have understanding of statements, we have our RFQ, which is the essence of what we're doing, outlines the whole process and understanding. Now we have figure out a schedule and understand what that schedule really means to us, as a committee, as it relates to the project. So I guess without looking at the schedule, if we take several months and sometime this summer, we are able to pick, an OPM, go through the process and pick a designer, and we pick a designer, the design, I don't know, it'd take 6 to 12 months to design this whole thing out, go through the several processes, go through a cost estimate, go through checks, go through approvals, and then have a set of documents that we can then bid, which would probably take 2 months from the time we select and say, yep, that's the plans, that's what we're doing. And then we say, okay, now we've gotta gear this up, and we've gotta put this out on the street, and we've gotta run a process similar to this to get all the construction dollars, pick a CM, pick the subcontractors, and then put a shovel in the ground. Put a shovel in the ground, it's usually 14 months for anything. And depending on when we start, we certainly don't wanna start like in the middle of February when the ground's rock hard. It'd be nice to start no later than September, or start in April. So if the design, if we're in the middle of the summer, let's say we're on June or the end of June, then you take another 8 months, you're into pushing into the spring, and then you take another 14 months. I mean, we're talking about opening a door in the summer of 2018, right? That's 19. Right, so 2009, it's barely, we're into first quarter of 2017, and we're talking about 19 already before this is even done. So there's a long road we're setting, we're setting our nest for the next couple years in terms of this whole process. Interest rates are going up, everyone else in the economy is good, and if they rate, I don't know, that's a couple years, maybe another 1.5 on top of the interest rate that we're getting to as we move through this whole project. So time is money. And this is a pick-me-up, and we need to have meetings, we need to get approval, and there are some time processes built into the proposal that just, are what they are, but how do we move this forward? So, John, do you wanna
Sure.
kind of summarize and take us through what you did here?
Yep, so I put down a bunch of the tasks that are gonna go on, we've talked about already, and just put some timeline on them. And, like Eric said, they just take time, especially where we're a volunteer group. I see the OPM process at this time taking the next couple of months before we're all done. And if we've allowed, Martha made a very good point, now you updated it, what if we have to go to the second candidate? So I've put a contingency in there for another round of picking an OPM because we didn't like the one we were negotiating with. So this schedule's got a couple extra weeks, 3 weeks in it for the OPM, and it's got 3 weeks in it for our second round of architect review in case we can't work out a deal with the first architect. So that's,
I mean, it's
almost
catch
2 months.
up, but we have about 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, I gotta leave at 8, and so I'd like to try to keep the meetings to an hour.
Yep.
So let's, not to cut you off or belittle, because this is the essence of really, we have to go step by step, and we have to, there's no shortchanging this, and there's no cutting to the end to get through this kind of process.
good. So you've seen, I've kind of segmented the things we talked about. We've got to go through each step of the way. And, review it, approve it, then the advertising. And there's a period of time we got to allow for them for that. We may be able to shorten that up, but usually I think it's at least a 2-week process for advertising for anything. And you want at least another week after that advertising for them to finish their proposals and come in. And then we need a period of time. I put down 7 days, which is about a week and a half of time to review. I don't think we should need much more than that, but if we do, we do. That's a guideline. And then usually a short list, 3 candidates, you may go with 4th because there's 4 really good ones that we want to talk to. Before we do that, we're going to be sitting down doing our selection process. And then you meet with that candidate and you try and work out a contract with them, because that's when you do the financial piece of it. And you award it, and off you go. And then you do the same thing for architects. Go ahead.
Right. So our heaviest task is really being on point and upfront with the OPM. Once we bring the OPM on board, now we have some professional services to help us pick the architect and, or the designer team, and maybe that goes a little quicker, or maybe that's a little less lifting for us, because we just hired them to help us do that. That's the whole point, is
Yes.
having communities that haven't or don't regularly build things, getting somebody with the knowledge and the know that does this regularly as a profession, to bring them on board because of the amount of construction and the construction costs that we're doing.
Which is why the first task of the OPM was to review the program task, and they go to town and start doing the work. We're doing all the work right now to get them on board, but they're gonna do most of the work to get the architect on board. And we're gonna have information that we wanna make sure is included in that. So I've got a little extra time, between the program and the architect RFQ draft, which may seem a little long, but if we get it right the first time, we won't have problems at the other end, or less problems at the other end.
Do you see the OPM helping us do we're supposed to do adopt a written procedure for the design selection process? Is that something we're gonna do independently, or is the OPM gonna help us do that?
We should be guiding them on what we want, there's certain nuances that we prefer to have and not have. You know?
Then the selectmen have to approve the written statement of what our procedure is. So that's just another element that gets added into it.
Okay, good to know.
Can we be doing that now before?
Yeah, I mean, there's a format that's already in the handbook.
Yeah. Well, you'll see in a couple spots out here, I kind of, and if I had showed links on this, you'd see it, we're doing something else about something else going on in preparation for.
I wouldn't,
like
hope we're
the-
not sitting and waiting for.
Like the scorecard piece, we're doing the
Yeah.
scorecard while they're out getting their proposal together. And
It
we're ready
is
to
something
make
that
them.
we could be doing too, not that it's a procedural thing.
So we're here on Friday, 3/17, and what John's put on the schedule is, if you look at 15 and come across 15 days, or no, not 15 days.
3 weeks.
But 3 weeks from, to April 3rd, which is a Tuesday, right? No, that's Monday.
Monday, yeah.
It's Monday, it's opening day. That's our first real task and date in front of us, in terms of getting from that RFP that we just flipped through very, very quickly, RFQ that we just flipped through very, very quickly, to having it what we think is done. That's 3 weeks from now. I'm away next week, so I'd like to figure out how to schedule a meeting or maybe we set a date as next Friday for first rounds of thoughts and edits. And we'd really like to have, or make sure everyone weighs in and somehow everyone communicates back to Martha with their thoughts and edits.
Yeah, how about Monday, because I'm out all next week as well, so the following Monday.
You get time off?
Yeah.
I don't know, can we have a motion? That's well deserved, Martha. Okay, so
So the 27th?
the
Yeah.
27th.
I've got one question that looks like we have to be prepared for our shareholders' needs for that meeting. And the only question I have for that is, when we're constructing that, are we taking into consideration, are we supposed to be taking into consideration what we anticipate the needs will be 20 years down the road, or is that something that happens at a later time? Are we just talking about essential spaces, or, because obviously the dynamic of the town might be different down the line. Where does that weigh in as far as shareholders' needs?
We are going to, ballpark
I would think,
the project.
right?
We're not gonna tell them, we have a program that's available and they can flip through it, but we're issuing the program so that they can get a size of this project. Then we'll select the designer. And
That's when that will be taken into
yeah,
consideration.
and the OPM may have specific information, and they may have just finished 3 police stations, and we'll say, okay, well, let's take a second, and in a meeting, sit down, here's what we came up with, let's discuss this program. And that will be the first vetting of the program.
Okay,
Then
so
we'll
this-
hire designers
Right.
who better understand how to put pieces of program together, and again, we might hopefully select someone that has police station experience, and they can bring in and say, you know, I just finished Salisbury, here's Salisbury's program, here's your program, and there's basically all the same till you get to this couple points, let's discuss these couple points. Then we still have parameters, then they go and design it, and they try to lock these things together, and that's when we come back and they run a schedule and say, okay, you wanted this, and I've laid it out on site, and I'm giving you this, and you can see some of it fits and some of it doesn't.
Right.
And that's when we have meetings to say, with the stakeholders, with the selectmen, you know, we were proposing, it added up to 10,000 square feet, we have budget issues, we're trying to get it to 8, or we have 8,500 square feet, looks like we got a little extra, or we cut it down to 8, but we'd really like to add back in another 300
That's
square
where the
feet. to
conceptual
get it.
design phase.
Right, so
Correct.
you gotta we gotta hire the architect and let the architect start the process before we get in that deep with the
All
program.
right, so getting back to my original thing, I understand all that, but I'm looking at item 9, and it appears that we have to be able to convey our, our
We-
need, but the scope of it is just, they just kind of throw on the table essential spaces.
We have the program, for
That's
better
all
or for
set.
worse.
Right.
It's done.
Okay.
You reviewed it a while ago.
Yep.
It may not totally be up to date, but we have a target of square footage, which we will debate, and I'll
Okay.
assess myself and plug in a certain number there that makes the most sense. And I can tell you why I picked that number and how it matches the schedule. The same thing with the budget, we got 6.5 million, how we assess it for the police station, how we assess it, we'll have to have some discussion on that, but that's the stakeholder needs. We have that information.
We're all set.
That's all I was referring to, the initials for this process.
Right.
What do we need to make sure we get covered if we hire these people?
John, I need to bring forward the program and the budget, and in the next meeting, we'll share with everybody, you know, we went through this long process, and we ended up, and this is kind of where we ended up,
Mhm.
and that's,
All right, so there's no expectation of us providing anything for that,
No.
that's already been done, that was.
Just wanna make sure we covered it properly.
Right, for starters, and then I would anticipate when, the OPM and with the designer will conduct a series of interviews.
Sure.
I mean, they'll read the program that we have, they'll vet the program, and
Okay.
that will get translated
yeah,
into the
there is
final bids.
interaction when the design team is on board.
Right.
You know, they'll tour your station, and then they'll see what you have, you can tell them what really does work for you that may be different from any other town. The other item that's on the board is that, there's a meeting on, what was the date, 28th?
28th.
So on 3/28,
We're trying to get some confirmation on that.
the chief of Salisbury has offered kindly for us to be able to meet over at their brand-new police station that opened up a couple weeks ago. We could meet there. 2, we could have the chief hopefully give us a tour and show us around
The
his
chief is on board with,
around
giving
the
the
new
committee a tour.
facility. It would be great if we had enough time, or maybe we have to go back, but it would be excellent for everybody to understand a new police station in 2 ways. One, you park your car, you walk up like you're going in to just get a license for your boat, and you just wanna go in and see what, as a public person, a resident of the town, what you walk into. And then secondly, it'd be good, get handcuffs on all of you, and take you in through the Sally Port and understand the process of how the back of the police station sequence works, all the way from, being driven into a Sally Port to the process, into a holding cell, and understand it from 2 sides. This is a unique building that, well, I guess it's not that unique, most buildings have it, you have a front public side and you have an operations side, and there's a unique sequence from both, and there's a limit of interaction between the 2, and we wanna make that as best operational as it needs to be. And so that in terms of seeing, it's nice to see break, it's nice to see something new, it's nice to, smells new, but, it's nice to see happy people, but you gotta understand, when you walk through the spaces, you're looking at it 2 different ways, and that's what we need to accomplish here on our budget for our spaces. And maybe we go over there and maybe we have our meeting there, we have a lot to discuss, and the tour is fairly high level, and then if need be, we could probably go back. It would also be good to identify maybe one other station, and possibly not as a group, but individually be able to get there on whenever and tour that other station, if you guys could think on that.
Which one?
Rockport.
Oh, Rockport,
Is a
okay.
decent, that's a fairly new station there.
Right, so maybe we could just send a letter, you can communicate to them, you got a committee of 9. If they could show up on a Saturday, and I don't know if maybe they say, look, you need to do it in 2 groups, or yeah, just let them come by anytime.
Rockport Chief's gonna be in our office, Monday morning, so.
So we, as a group, separately, individually, or in teams, would be great to see Rockport, would be great to see Salisbury, and how big is Rockport, do you know?
Well, it's compatible, I don't know the numbers, but it's compatible with the influx they have in summer,
Okay.
so it is compatible with what we deal with. I believe they're compatible with the populace too, I think they're right on 65, 7,000 each.
Just check that data with the chief when you meet him, like, again, how many people in town, how big is your force, and if you could just make a quick comparison for us,
Absolutely.
that would be a good.
They're about the same, about 6950, I imagine it's about where we were at right now.
Yeah.
Town of Weston, because they had recently just finished one.
This and one.
Yeah,
So,
and they're not a big town, even though they're.
Right, so that's excellent. Okay,
They've got
so we got
money.
2
Money they can,
examples
The
of
program
what-
will work. Although the
what we're
program-
sizing up, and Salisbury has a little bit more in terms of the size of it, well, they have a lot more, they have twice the size of the station.
It's 18,000.
So that will be understanding of what extra they got, and it's not extra, it's they had other needs that they needed to facilitate.
It's a good visual for the essential spaces and how they work too, so.
That's the important thing, seeing that.
Right, and the front side and the back side are similar in terms of process and sequence, and that's what we're going for.
What have we come up with for, obviously I haven't seen the program, what have we come up with for
We're
square
somewhere
footage?
between 8,000 and 9,000 square feet.
Oh, that's the size.
Okay.
It would be good when we're touring it too, if you guys can point out what is similar operationally to what you do and
Right.
what differences you might wanna see.
I mean, just all the holding cells, similar everywhere, it's standardized,
Right.
Just less of it.
Right.
Evidence,
Yeah, exactly.
property processing is standardized, so.
Communications,
Communications,
standardized.
I would just say, being that, I think I was the project manager for the Salisbury Police Station,
Like
contractor.
what? Oh, okay.
I would say it's just gonna be smaller, very.
Yeah, same thing,
smaller,
smaller.
Smaller evidence stores, smaller.
Where Salisbury may have 7 holding cells
Yeah.
for males and 2 for females and 2 for juveniles, we need 1 of each, you know?
Mhm.
So I mean, their size, what they need for those essential services is larger in scale, but we need the same essential services.
The
Good
good
news
news
is-
dispatch the same way you do to
Yes.
another entity?
No, they're in their own communication.
You don't go through the,
Yeah.
county, do you?
So
Yeah,
do
that's a
we-
big expense, the back of the house, that's a huge expense because of the robustness of the construction you have to do, and the cost of all that stuff, I mean, it's like, I was
Yeah,
really surprised.
and I think we're just getting, in essence, to, like, introduce us all to a police station. This isn't, as we go through and then hire designers, and and we get the designers going, the team, whether it's our committee or the next committee, will be in deep of going over there and really touching, feeling everything, and, you know, we'll have a discussion on the holding bars and the lock sets and the benches, and you'll have comments on that level. That's not the level that we're looking at this. We're trying to just understand the size, proportions, an essence of sequence, separation of what a police station is. So, when we get back qualifications and we get back photographs and we get back descriptions, we have an image in our head to go with text and other images, and if there's a question on what you're looking at, there is a reference that we could go over and see and discuss of something that's brand new as it relates to what people are presenting their qualifications back to us.
I'm out of town on the 28th, so I can't be available for that.
You're pretty familiar with that building up?
You're familiar with the building?
Ben, know what situation?
Well, you know what, they'll say things they won't say in front of me.
I may have trouble making that meeting, as well, but let's, so we need to wrap this up, we need to figure out the next.
We had a tentative time of 5
5
is what
o'clock.
Tracy
Yeah.
gave.
Yeah,
So
on
she
the-
that was the time that I set with Tom initially.
Oh, that day, if I was.
5 o'clock, because we wanted to be able to have a meeting
Yeah.
and a quick tour, and still have the selectmen get back to the selectmen's meeting for 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So,
And are we inviting the other selectmen as well to take a tour?
I think it would be helpful.
oh, absolutely. And, if you can't make the meeting, I can set up another tour. Tom, he's
Okay.
extremely gracious, he's
Oh,
more than willing to
he's
do whatever
wonderful
we
to
need.
work with.
So Martha's gonna set that meeting up for the next meeting. I think the agenda would be that we would, review the first edits of, the RFQ. We would have better time to study and understand what we need to do to get to April 4th, which would then be a week away or so. In terms of, after reading and making edits on that document, we, at that meeting, would need to figure out, hey, we're almost there, or holy crap, we got a lot of work to do, this isn't gonna go out in a week. And once we have that document, we need to figure out how to, get it blessed or have the understanding of the selectmen, this is what we're doing. I
Right.
think we probably have to show up at a selectmen's meeting and say, okay, I've got the document, I'm gonna walk you through it quickly, and the committee, is looking for your approval to move ahead, and we're gonna, you know, we're gonna advertise, we're going forward, we're doing this. Okay?
Yep.
It'd be great if you could rally the other selectmen for that meeting to impress upon them. It would be very good for them to be there at the same time that the committee
Right,
is there.
I think it's important they see the same information, the same materials we're looking at.
At the same time, and again, it's a high-level overview. It's not nuts and bolts and picking apart the carpet and
Right.
so.
So are we gonna meet on the 27th? Or we're gonna, you're gonna?
We're gonna meet on the 28th, but any edits, are due on the 27th. You gotta email your edits to Martha. And it would be best if you just emailed your edits to Martha and not copied the whole team with everybody's edits. How, Martha, do you wanna collect everybody's edits? Do you want everyone to share everybody's edits and have everyone try to read everybody's edits?
And I think we could share edits, we just can't have any discussion about edits.
So if we could get the Dropbox set up and everyone could log on and just drop their RFQ, maybe their initials in front of it and the name of the document that we're using, then
That'd be great.
then everyone's there and you can, you know, you don't wanna read mine, don't read mine.
It's pretty easy, you just.
I'll take care of you.
Yeah, I'm with you.
When you feel less of like.
There you go, we'll take care of you too.
You gotta sign on, you gotta log on, so just keep your password taped to your forehead or your wrist, like Tom Brady does. And, I mean, that's all his you know, his eBay password is on his wrist. when he does that. And then it's just as easy as clicking on it on like your, you know, you're shopping at LLB and the box appears up and it will say OPM, the selection committee, whatever the names it, you click on it and there'll be some folders
It's
and.
gonna be lost in cyberspace somewhere.
Well, we'll try, we'll set up basically send out an invitation.
You'll never get
set
lost,
up a
you just
shared
can't find it.
Dropbox, and we'll
That's
put
it all.
files on it, so,
Yeah.
and if it doesn't
On the
work, we'll
lockbox.
figure something else.
Can you get that
I
done
can.
between now and the 27th?
I'll try to do it on Monday.
Okay. All right, so we have a meeting on the 28th. We have a first draft read of edits submitted digitally back. And I will try to send out an email of the upfront couple pages to you sometime next week, because I'm out and I'm doing it. And we have a tour set up, and we have a schedule, a working schedule, that we're gonna edit and move forward with.
So for the 28th, I suggest we do the tour right away with all 5 selectmen and the committee. I'll have Tom give us the tour right away, that way the selectmen that are on the committee can come back to town hall in case our meeting runs a little over then.
Right, we can still make it
Yeah,
quorum.
yeah, so,
That's what we'll do.
so the tour will be first and we'll have a meeting afterwards.
Afterwards, okay, and so we'll just meet in the lobby there, do you think?
Yeah, I'll find out from Tom, I'll email the group as to exactly where to park and where to meet.
Okay, so,
Yeah, you run the tour.
Okay.
So how big a facility is that, John?
18,000 feet.
18.
They've got third level storage for future use, which
Okay.
are able to accommodate, which we probably won't do.
Right.
But they're basically 2 floors. Almost the new station, all upstairs, and extra storage for evidence and stuff.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
move to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?